Hello. Sorry I'm a little late there. Not too bad. 1 minute though. 2 minutes. It's probably a record for me. What's up, Andre? I actually started this early today for you. I didn't want to start any earlier than 11:30 because I figured that was just too early for most American peoples. But you're here, so that's cool. I got two people here. So yeah, this is going to be pretty much the same as the last few live streams I've done. Just going to talk about all the movies I've watched over the last I don't know, month or two, or however long it's been since last time. I think I've been watching more stuff than lately. More stuff than almost than I ever. I've almost been watching like one movie every day, sometimes two. So it's excessive, but I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at these days. Um, why go out and do No, no, guys, I'm sorry. Thanks for hanging in there. Yeah, Peter. I thought I had an outage, and I went and checked, and like, there's no outage. My internet just literally went out for no fucking reason. But I'm back. Hopefully, you guys are still here. I'm gonna make a real quick YouTube post, just letting people know. Um, Not that a lot of people were going to be here today, but if anyone left, I just want to let them know they feel free to come back. Anyway, who's still here? Probably Andre, because you were here. Andre is always the earliest, which is awesome. I guess we'll just start over from what I was saying earlier. Andre, I actually started this live stream earlier today. I was going to do it at 12 or maybe even like 2 p.m. or something, but I started it early today, so Andre doesn't have to stay up so late because he is in Moscow, Russia. So, so yeah, there's that. All right, 1 second here. Make a little post here. Internet issues. I can't type fast with my phone. Man, what a bummer. It wasn't that bad. It was almost 10 minutes, but anyway. So I'm just gonna. I guess I'll just start over from the beginning. I don't even know how this is going to upload. Like after the stream is over, I hope it like cuts out that whole chunk that I was disconnected. I imagine it would, but just for if anyone watches this later on. But cool, Peter. I'm glad you're here still. So anyways, yeah. So talking about all the movies I've watched over the last month or two. Quite a few. I'd say probably close to 40 movies or so. So you guys can tell me what you've been watching also, because I don't know. I've just been enjoying it. Usually around the Halloween season, I watch more movies, but lately I've just been watching more just for no reason at all, just because I don't know. When I'm not working, I don't have a whole lot else to do with my life, so but I mean, I don't watch movies just purely out of boredom. Like I've just been super enjoying it lately. A lot of these I have done reviews for, whether I've uploaded them or not. So ignore that, I guess. If you've seen all my reviews, I guess that's fine. I'll still breeze through the ones that I've reviewed, and I actually put these all in chronological order by year, so that's kind of cool. Starting with like the 1930s, which I don't watch a lot of old movies. But how are you guys all doing? Peter's still here. Andre, got 5 people, it says, so let me know who you are. Yeah, let me know what you've been watching, and I guess I'll just start. So starting with Universal movie, which I've said this before. I've said this over the last couple of years. I'm kind of a noob to Universal stuff. I've always loved the Universal monsters, but I just had never seen all the movies. What's up, Scott? Yeah, I had never really seen all the Universal movies, which I know seems kind of like a poser move, but I didn't really grow up watching like old black and white stuff. I'm not 100 years old. I have friends that, don't get me wrong, I have friends that are younger than me that grew up watching the Universal stuff, which I think is really cool. I didn't, though. I just grew up always thinking the monsters were cool, but I hadn't really seen any of the movies until the last like 10 years. So we're going to start off with this really cool Blu-ray I have of The Mummy. Good old Boris Karloff and all that. I will say, so this might bum some of you guys out. Side note, Alex Ross, who I don't know if Alex still does comic books, but in the early 2000s, he was super, super known for working with DC Comics, and he does these really cool cover arts. He's just like a next level artist when it comes to comic books, and I guess just art in general. But so yeah, Alex Ross did that, and I thought it was cool how he did it in black and white, also no color, because usually he does color stuff. But anyways, so I watched The Mummy, and I gotta say, maybe I need to let this soak in a little bit more. But I didn't really super enjoy it. I didn't love this movie. I thought it was kind of slow and kind of boring. I don't know, because I like I love like Christopher Lee's Dracula stuff. I love the Frankenstein stuff, but this original Mummy movie, it's not that I hated it, but I don't know, I didn't love it. I know, that's kind of lame. Greetings from Germany, Satanic War Master 666. Wow, I don't think I've ever, or to my knowledge, I only know one guy that's ever watched me from Germany. A guy named Christian, really cool guy. So that's cool. Wow. What is Peter? You're watching Rambo 1 and 2? Are you watching them both at the same time? I'm just kidding. Great movies, dude. I'm a huge Rambo fan. I mean, I grew up, as everyone my age or older, I grew up with the Rambo stuff. I mean, Rambo was like one of the gods, when you're growing up in the 80s and 90s as a little kid. I remember having all the action figures. I still watch the Rambo movies. They're still amazing, especially the first one. The first one is just, I mean, the first one is the only one that's like a truly great film. Number two is a good action movie, but the first one is just like a truly standalone great film. Didn't need any sequels, right? But what's up, Simon? No, we didn't start. Well, I mean, I guess it started a little earlier today, but I've only been on for like 5 minutes, so I decided to start this a little earlier today for Andre because he lives in Russia and he has to stay up late when when I do these. Scott the Mummy is very boring. Okay, good. I thought I was losing some cred there or something, but oh my god, dude. I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. But cool. Yeah, we'll move on. That's the only thing I have from the 30s. Nothing from the 40s or 50s. Come to think of it, yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie from the 40s. Surely I have, but nothing I can think of. 50s, yes. We're moving to straight up to 1960, I believe. If I have any of these years wrong, you can correct me. Yeah, 1960. Now, this movie I just watched recently for the first time. So another shocker, probably for some people. And unlike that Mummy movie, I really enjoyed this. I kind of avoided this for a long time just because I thought it would be dated. And I've done that with a lot of old shit. So, like with H.P. Lovecraft's writing, I avoided it for decades because it was so old. I just figured it was like dated and I just wouldn't be able to connect with the material, which I was wrong. It's awesome. 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, the only Hitchcock thing I've ever seen. And I thought this movie was fantastic. I absolutely loved every second of this. I can see now why people call this a masterpiece because, let's be honest, it absolutely is. Janet Leigh, I loved her. I loved her portrayal. I don't remember her name in the movie, but and getting to, you always have heard the legend. If you didn't grow up in the 60s, which, I didn't, I'm sure none of you guys did either. You grew up with a legend, you hear stuff about this movie, how it was received in the 60s. Peter Spanish Dracula. No, actually, I've been meaning to see that. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, cool. But anyways, yeah, Psycho. You hear stories about how this was like so controversial for its time, and some of it's stupid, like controversial because there's like a scene that shows a toilet in the bathroom. You couldn't show that in 1960. You couldn't even pan across and see a toilet on film. It wasn't allowed. But there's like stuff in here, like at the very beginning, has Janet Leigh's character, and she's like on the bed with her boyfriend or fiance, whatever, and they're like kind of fooling around, her shirt's off and stuff. Like that had to have been completely new for 1960. I mean, Hitchcock, surely he broke a lot of ground with this movie alone, and maybe with some of his others. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally saw it. Simon, you need to, yeah, let me know where I should go next. I know my buddy Kevin, Full Metal Ginger's a big Hitchcock fan. I think he said Rear Window is his favorite, if I remember correctly. And I've seen the remake of that Johnny Depp, I think. I didn't love that, but I'm sure the original would be cool. So I think we're out of the 60s. Nope, still in the 60s. My bad. Moving up to 1963. I've done already a review of this, so I don't know, maybe one or two of you saw that, but we got Francis Ford Coppola's Dementia 13. I hope I didn't talk about this on my last stream. I might have. I might not have. This is a really cool movie also. Another movie that I had in my collection for a long time and just kind of avoided it because it was 1963. I don't know. I just didn't think I would connect with the 1960s as someone, who didn't grow up in that time. Simon, Rear Window and Vertigo. All right, cool. I'm on. I'm gonna get those. Peter's talking about Spanish Dracula. I can't believe I forgot about that because I love Dracula. You know about Spanish Dracula being filmed on the same set as Dracula, but at night after they finished for the day or finished filming for the day on the Bela Lugosi Dracula. That's amazing. So these Spanish filmmakers came in and worked out a deal with them, I guess. That's pretty cool. The Birds. Oh, Andre, yeah. The Birds. I need to rewatch that. I saw The Birds when I was a little kid, and I remember thinking it was pretty crazy. For I was probably 8 or 9, but I need to get back on The Birds. So yeah, Dimension 13, another movie that for 1963, pretty controversial. Yeah, there's like a beheading scene. I mean, it's not graphic, but it shows a severed head. Um, I'm just going to take a stab at it. That had to have been. That had to have been. I wonder if this is the first movie to ever show a severed head. I don't know, or at least first. I don't know, first not like independent movie or something. I don't know. For 1963, severed heads, I don't think were much of a thing at all. So, but dude, I don't know shit about movies from back in the 1960s. And then we got, I think 1970. I think this was 70. Let's see. Pretty sure this is 1970. I don't know if anyone's heard of Blood Shack. This is a Ray Dennis Steckler film. I might have shown this one in my last stream too. No, I didn't. No. I just only rewatched this. So Ray Dennis Steckler was a director, this young dude, just totally independent director from the 70s. God, he might have been doing stuff in the late 60s. I can't remember, but he was just this young dude. He was like an Ed Wood. He wasn't super talented. He didn't have any money, but he wanted to make movies and he was passionate about it. And he made a bunch. This is the second one I've seen so far. This one is very minimalist. I mean, there's probably only like 5 actors in it, maybe less. There's not a whole lot going on here. It's basically about this legendary murderer. People don't know if he's real or not. He's a what do you call it? Like an urban legend. It's called the Trooper, and and he kills people for. There's like this house out in the middle of nowhere. The movies basically takes place in this podunk little town. There's only not very many people that live there, and it's kind of on the outskirts. And there's this house that legend is if you go there and if you stay the night or something, you will be murdered by the Trooper, who's this guy. And no, that's not Alice Cooper. I thought it was. This guy he was like some rockabilly singer or something like that. I don't remember his name. But anyways, I don't know. I can't necessarily say I recommend it, but it was a weird watch, and it was kind of cool in that just because it was weird. Um, we got a good stack of 1980s movies, starting with 1980. Mother's Day, directed by Charles Kaufman. This is one of the very early Troma films. This had to have been, I don't know when Troma started, but this had to have been, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows. I don't know if Troma was actually a thing in 1980. I wonder if this is, something that they adopted later on, but it is now considered a Troma film. I don't know if it was from the start. Again, I don't know if Troma was actually operating in 1980. I should have looked that up before this, but I didn't think about it. This is a cult classic. This is a rape and revenge film. Really good. I really enjoyed this one. I had never seen it before. I'm a big Troma fan, but you can't see everything. So this is basically about these two brothers, probably inbred. They live with their mom out in the middle of the woods. Basically, she raises them to basically be her slave. She tells basically traumatizes them from early age. Tells them everyone else is bad. Everyone's gonna hate you. I'm the only one that cares about you. So they didn't go to school. They're totally fucked up, and they basically, I don't know, when they stumble on And I'm back. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Can you believe? I can't believe this shit. This is like what my fourth. More than that. I've probably done like 10 live streams now, and this I've never had a single issue until now. But at least that was only a minute or so. Last time it was 10. And anyways, I'm just gonna keep pressing on until it gets really bad. But Mother's Day, if you like rape and revenge films, this is a really fun one. Which I don't know. It's a controversial genre to talk about nowadays, but it used to be a big thing. They still make movies like that, but then we are still, I think it's still, yeah, still in 1980. We got Midnight. This movie is really cool. I didn't know shit about this movie walking into it, and I bought this just totally blind. I bought it because it was a Severin film, which they put out cool stuff. Um, upon learning a little bit about it later, so it was a book, which I didn't know. Scott, I think you told me about that. It was a book, I think it's what Scott told me. And this was directed by John Russo, who gathered basically I think he lived in Pittsburgh. So I think he was friends with Peter. You have this movie? Okay. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong about any of the things I say about this, because I'm going to try to kind of talk about some of the history. I think John Russo lived in Pittsburgh, and I think he was friends with George Romero. And he basically used Romero's crew, Romero's Pittsburgh kind of, his famous Pittsburgh crew to record this movie. And this even has Tom Savini. Tom Savini did the gore effects, which it's definitely not Tom's best work by any means, but it's still cool. Tom Savini is obviously he's a legend in gore effects and VFX in general. Yeah, really good. At first, when I was watching this, I thought this was an anthology, just because of the way that it like kind of sidestepped through actors and their characters and their lives at the time. But it's not an anthology. It's basically just about this girl. She's in high school. She's got an abusive stepdad, and she doesn't see any way to escape her crappy life, so she wants to run away basically and go live with her sister in California. She has basically almost no money, so this is just basically her tale about trying to get to California, and just keeps meeting people, and her story just keeps getting worse and worse. She ends up meeting these two dudes. They're actually really nice guys. They're road tripping, so they're willing to take her as far as they can go, and they end up running into like this like fucked up cult out in the middle of the woods. Basically, it's like satanic murder cult. I guess you could call this like a satanic panic type movie. Simon looks like a zombie Joker. I guess you're right. It's a very cool cover. But yeah, I definitely recommend this. This is a really good time. And Scott says Russo is the writer and very involved in Night of the Living Dead. Okay, I thought his name sounded familiar. Okay, yeah. So he was friends with Romero. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I guess that's, looking back on it, that's probably why I bought this, actually, probably because of the Romero name on the back. He doesn't have anything to do with it, but I guess in a way he indirectly kind of does. Then we got we're going to jump up to 1983. We've got a movie that I'd heard about for a long time, and took me forever to finally see it, but we got Pieces. This is a Spanish film, Spanish slasher. It's pretty legendary at this point, but I don't know. I had always wanted to see it, and then I just finally saw it used in a store. And like, this really cool Grindhouse version too. These Grindhouse releasings are super nice. So yeah, pick this up. This is about basically this young kid who's traumatized. These are always about somebody being traumatized, but that's a real thing. So he's traumatized by his mom, and he becomes, it's pretty straight and to the point. Traumatized by his mom, becomes a killer later on in life. Yeah, that's that's pretty much it. He's a slasher. He kills people. It's a good one. If you're a slasher fan and you haven't seen this one, totally recommend it. Yeah, check out Pieces. lot of history behind that one, and I'm not an expert, so I wasn't gonna ramble on for too long. But I love slasher films. I'm sure a lot of you guys too. Peter, you've got it on VHS and Blu-ray. Oh, dude, that if you have that on VHS, that's probably worth a decent chunk of change because I can't imagine a lot of the old obscure VHS horror stuff is actually pretty sought after these days. So you might have a yeah, pretty good collector thing on your hand there. Next, what year is this? 84. Eyes of Fire. Had this one in my collection for a while. It's also a Severin film. When I say something is a Severin film, I mean all Severin does is they re-release stuff. So, I mean they have had some original stuff. Most of their stuff is they buy the rights to it, re-release it. This is a folk horror, I guess you could say. I think it's set. I can't remember where it's set. I think in England. Anyways, it's all the actors are British, and basically it's about this this preacher who is accused of like fornicating with multiple women. Really, he wasn't, but he was living in a house with two women, and therefore he must be bad. So they end up chasing him out of the village. They were actually going to hang him, but he has some friends come and rescue him. So they're basically going to leave this village. They're going to go start their own village somewhere else. Oh, this is set in the U.S. This was set in what period? I'm an American, so I should know this. It was the period, the settlement era of the U.S. where it was still mostly Native Americans. So they go to start their own village in Shawnee Indian territory, which was not a good idea, but they don't. It wasn't their country. They didn't know what they were doing. They just figured, oh, we can go anywhere we want and make it our own. So they have some scuffles with the Shawnee Indians, and they wouldn't have made it through until they found this part of the woods that was cursed, and so the Shawnee tribe would not go into it, but they stay there anyways, and it turns out to be I don't want to give too much away, but it turns out to be basically cursed, and so this movie took a lot of. Or not took a lot, but this movie was very inspirational to some recent movies like The Witch. Robert Eggers' The Witch, I think, drew a lot of inspiration from this movie. I can't remember. I remember reading about the budget. It was a pretty low budget, but really, really cool. Like this director, what was his name? Oh, I can't remember. The director, no, it wasn't Philip Spinelli. Yeah, you think it would say on the back, and I'm sure it does. Yeah, Avery Krauts. He only directed a few movies after this, and dude, this was his directorial debut, and this is pretty fantastic, especially for a brand new filmmaker. I thought the visual effects were really cool. At times they're kind of dated, but what do you expect? He got some criticism when this came out. This was a lot of reviewers at the time actually really liked this, but he got some criticism for, even at the time, some of the effects were kind of dated, but it's like, dude, first of all, it's his first movie. Second of all, he had no budget to work with, but yeah, really cool costume design and stuff like that. It's kind of it's a supernatural folk horror. Definitely recommend it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, most of these movies I've only ever seen one time, so I'm doing my best to kind of talk about them. 1985, I'd been waiting a while to see this. We got Creature. This came out through Vinegar Syndrome. Sure, some of you guys have heard of this one. This is so back in the 80s, early to mid 80s, actually the entire decade of the 80s. There were tons of movies that were basically just straight up ripped off, or straight up ripping off like Alien and in the Aliens movies, and it's blatantly obvious at times, and it is here too. But that doesn't mean a movie still can't be cool. You don't have to be completely original all the time. So this is a straight up Aliens ripoff, but still done pretty well. It's about this crew. A bunch of scientists, what do you call it, explorers and stuff like that. They're exploring this part of space. They end up crashing and finding they find these eggs. Sorry, I'm stumbling through this one. They end up finding these eggs that are they're not as cool as the eggs in Aliens, the ones with the what do you call it, the crawly things that come out, but still kind of cool. They find these eggs and they're going to bring them back, and there's aliens inside of the eggs. The aliens grow really fast, just like the xenomorphs. I mean, the alien design looks pretty cool. I guess you can kind of see what he looks like on the cover. Pretty cool. I mean, they're no xenomorphs. It's funny when you watch movies like this that are, obviously inspired by, Alien and Aliens. It just makes you realize how fucking cool and how ahead of the times that those movies were. Because has anyone ever seen an alien design that was as cool as the xenomorphs? It's just, I don't think no, you haven't. It's never been done. So there's some cool gore scenes, some cool death scenes. The acting is passable. Some of the actors are pretty good. Some of them are pretty definitely worth watching though. I'd say, if you're a fan of if you're a fan of the alien movies or any alien movies in general, this is a lot of fun. It's not a great movie, but it is good. It is a good movie, worth watching. Again, it just makes you realize how untouchable the Aliens, those first two Aliens movies are. They're just like they're classics for a reason. They're just unsurpassed. Here's another one I only just watched the other day, so some of you knew this actually, because I remember I've talked to some of you guys about this, and some of you guys were surprised that I'd never seen it, but Fright Night from 86? 85. Fright Night from 85. So yeah, classic, legendary, absolute fan favorite in the vampire genre. Scott saw Creature at the time when video stores, but I don't remember seeing it in video stores, but my memory kind of sucks. I sure miss video stores though. Yeah, check it out, Scott. It's a good one. It's worth watching for sure. It's worth your time. Yeah. Fright Night. Andre, your favorite vampire movie? Yeah, you might have told me that. It was awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can see now why it's such a cult classic. Great cast. Chris Sarandon was awesome. Roddy McDowall, Amanda Bierce. Yeah, great cast. Especially Chris Sarandon. I think it's fair to say Chris Sarandon steals the show here, but all the main characters are really good. I don't think there's no weak acting link here. But it's just so cool. It's almost like it's kind of like a Dracula ripoff, really. I mean, when you think about it, it's got Chris Sarandon moving into this. It's like an urban Dracula. Chris Sarandon moving into this town, small to middle-sized town. The kid next door is kind of, he's a high school kid. He doesn't have anything to do. He's kind of he's being nosy, spying on everything, and he sees, of course, Chris Sarandon and his assistant, who's basically Renfield. They're moving into his new mansion, and what's the kid's name? I can't remember his name, but he sees him, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie sees him moving in he sees the crew moving in a coffin. So it's very, very Nosferatu, Dracula inspired. If you're going to compare Chris Sarandon to Dracula, which he's like, just imagine if Dracula had happened in the 1980s. He's got a total 80s vibe to him. He's of course he's super charming, and everybody likes him except for Charlie, and he seduces women constantly, and he's just like this basically American 1980s Dracula, which I didn't expect. That, I will admit, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't think it was going to be so parallel to Dracula. So for that reason, I thought it was even cooler. Here's a nice bit of information that you guys might not have known, because I learned this recently. You see Chris Sarandon in this movie a lot of time. He's eating apples, and Chris himself actually chose to add that into the movie. And the reason he's eating apples is because fruit bats will eat fruit in between eating, drinking blood from killing other small animals and stuff. They'll eat fruit as like a palate cleanser. So that's why they're called fruit bats. They don't only eat fruit, which is actually what I thought. I thought that fruit bats were called that because they ate fruit, but that or only fruit. They lived off of it, but that's not the case. So Chris, that's why he's eating the apples. He was inspired by the fruit bat, which is pretty cool. And I don't think I can't see how you would ever catch on to that, but unless you're some fucking fruit bat expert. But cool little nugget of info for you. I need my coffee. Dribble it down my face like always. Simon, this is Fright Night. It's on the horror channel periodically. Oh, dude, yeah, it's one of those classics where it's to this day it's everywhere. Haven't seen the remake, but I don't really plan on it. The Colin Farrell remake. I've heard some people say it's pretty decent, but I'm no anti-remake guy. You might know that by now. I actually kind of like the idea of remakes, but that one in particular doesn't really attract me. Kind of like the Pet Sematary remake. I don't have any desire to see that either, but some remakes I'm totally on board with. All right. Moving to 1987, we've got Mommy's Epitaph, otherwise just known as Epitaph. I don't know the story on why they call it Mommy's, but it's originally Epitaph. This is another trauma film. Who directed this one? Joseph Merhi. I did a review for this also, but I haven't uploaded it yet. I enjoyed the shit out of this one. This is basically about this family, small family. You got the dad, you get the mom, and then you get the high school girl. So it shows them moving, and you get the idea that they're pretty tired of moving. It doesn't really say why at the beginning, anyways. Especially the girl. Of course, she's tired of moving. She's a kid still, and no kid wants to move around constantly. But it turns out they're moving because the mom, she keeps killing people. She keeps killing people, and every time she does it, they move away so they don't get caught. Why they put up with it, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's because she's hot. I don't know. But pretty cool. It's basically a slasher film. The mom is the slasher villain. The daughter's basically the final girl, and the dad is just like a supportive idiot. That like there's the first scene where you realize that the mom is really fucked up is where they hire a painter to paint their walls, and she's at home because she doesn't do anything. She just sits at home and drinks all day basically, and she tries to seduce the painter. He's like this younger dude, tries to seduce him, and when he turns her down, she kills him and basically says that he was coming on to her. She's totally psychotic. Really, really, really fun movie. I loved it. Super duper low budget, but another example of how you can have a next to no budget and still make a really, really good and engaging movie. That's a good of an example as any. Let's see, what do we got going in the chat? Simon says, we used to have 2 great video rentals as a young teenager, and they never wanted ID. Yeah, I don't know about the town you grew up in, Simon, but man, it seems like every town that I lived in as a kid, there was always just the video stores were everywhere. I mean, of course, you had the big chains. I don't know about in England what your guys like big chains like countrywide chains were, but we had places like Blockbuster. I don't know if Blockbuster was nationwide. I would imagine they probably would be, or if they were only strictly American. But we had like Blockbuster. We had at least where I grew up, we had a place called Hollywood Video, which was a chain. They were everywhere. There weren't a lot of I think a lot of the chain stores were regional. So you guys probably had your own regional stores. But what was funny about like the 80s and 90s growing up is like you had all these mom and pop video stores. Anyone could start a video store as long as he had money. So there was just like mom and pop video stores all over the place. I mean, even in a small town, you probably had 3 or 4. It was crazy. I miss those days. I still think about them all the time. Like, I mean, would I be renting movies still? I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I just miss the stores, Simon, you had a Blockbuster. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. When Blockbuster was so huge. I don't know how widespread they were as a company. All right, moving on to 87, 87 or 88. I think this is 87. Creepshow 2. I'd seen this before, but it'd been a long time. I mean, I love the Creepshow movies. This is pretty good. I think we all would agree that it pales in comparison to the first. So you had Stephen King and George Romero working on the sequences here, the segments. I think every single segment here pales in comparison to the first, but still good. I still, every time I watch it, I enjoy every second of it. There's three years, there are 4 segments here. I can't remember for sure. My favorite one would probably be, and honestly, none of them are real great, but it's entertaining. I think my favorite would probably be old old Chief Woodenhead, the movie or the segment that has the super small town. You have like this mom and pop general store basically. I think they live next to a Native American reservation, and the chief from the reservation will come and like he'll buy supplies from this general store, and the tribe has come upon hard times, and they get in debt with this store because they can't pay for everything. But the shop owner's sympathetic and basically lets them, take supplies, as long as they promise to pay it back. So one day the chief comes and he's like, we're really ashamed that we owe you, that we're in debt with you, and so we want to do this. And he hands them like a bunch of treasures and stuff from the tribe, and he's like, if we don't pay you back within 1 month, you can just keep all this stuff. And the shopkeeper doesn't want to keep it, but the chief insists. And so the shopkeeper has this like wooden Native American statue outside of his store, and it can come to life, I guess. So there's these teenagers from town that come in and kill the shopkeeper and the owner. I think they take the treasures. They're basically trying to flee to California. Back in the 80s, everyone wanted to go to California. Now everyone wants to escape. But anyways, he kills the shop owner and his wife. And later on that night, the chief statue comes to life and goes and has revenge on all these teenagers and kills them. And yeah, I don't know. It may not sound cool, but that's probably my favorite. Andre says his favorite is the raft segment. And Scott says as well, yeah, that one's awesome. These teenagers who go out, it's the 80s, so of course all the characters are teenagers. They go out to this lake or river, something like that, body of water. Yeah, it's a lake. And they are, they're just partying. They're on this like raft thing, this like, I don't know what you call those. It's like wood. It's just like a wooden board, basically. That's like a raft. They're going out there to party, and there's like this, just a creature. I don't know what it's really made out of. It's just it just looks like an oil spill on top of the water with like some leaves and branches in it. But it's a amorphous, and and it kills all the teenagers in pretty horrific ways. It's also like it's like toxic or something. Like when it touches the kids, it like melts their skin off. And it's pretty gory. Yeah, pretty gory. There's some pretty good gore all throughout this. Yeah, it's good. It's not as good as the original, but I definitely wouldn't say skip it. Finally, I've seen from 1988. Yeah, 88. I've finally seen the second Critters movie because I had never seen it. I like the first quite a bit. It's not like a mega classic or anything, but I like it. Definitely the first one's definitely the better of the two so far. I've heard 3 and 4 are terrible, but 2 is pretty enjoyable. The main course, pretty enjoyable, pretty comparable to the first. It's a typical horror sequel, I guess. Back in the 80s, it was like almost as good as the first, almost as good as the original, but not quite. That's kind of what you're getting here. I plan on watching 3 and 4. Maybe I'll come back and let you know how bad they are, because I've heard, even by like mega fans of the original, I've heard the 3 and 4 are just garbage. And we're getting to 1988. After this, I have only a few from the 90s and then a handful from the 2000s, but I've done a review of this, haven't uploaded it yet. Deep Star 6. This is a pretty fun movie. This is yet another 80s movie, I would say, very inspired by, the Alien films. Simon says there's tits in the third Critters. I'm not surprised, but yeah. Always I feel like in the 80s there was tits in every movie, I think. Anyways, yeah, in the 80s I feel like you could even do an underwater movie that was kind of ripping off Aliens. And I think I don't know if it's just me. I'm getting Aliens vibes from this. It's basically about this so the submarine, I think it's the US government, I believe. It's the Navy. They're doing some exploring. They end up they're setting up this base, Navy base on the bottom of the ocean. It was on the ocean floor. And they end up cracking the ocean floor. Can you even do that? But they do. They crack the ocean floor, cause kind of a chasm. Of course, there's all kind of trouble going on there. But from cracking the ocean floor, they actually let out a monster. There's a monster that lives under the ocean floor. So it ends up coming out and terrorizing the crew. It's a decent looking creature. I can't really give you too good of a look at it. It's pretty good size. You can see its eyeball there. It's a decent looking creature, and the animatronics for it are solid, pretty solid. Andre says tits of Leo DiCaprio. I forgot, was Leo DiCaprio in Critters 3? Man, weird. I guess. Yeah, I mean you're probably right. But anyways, yeah, decent underwater aliens ripoff. I enjoyed it. Pretty good acting, actually. The actors here were probably above average for this kind of movie, for these low budget sci-fi movies. Like there's one guy in it, I can't remember his name, but you see him in a lot of 80s and 90s movies. He's just one of those veteran actors that pops up everywhere. Pretty good. I'd recommend it. So that's it for the 80s. Not much going on for the 90s. Which I guess shouldn't be surprising. I mean, there were good movies in the 90s, but 90s horror was obviously a crapshoot. 1993, we got this. This is a very cult classic movie at this point. Kronos, Spanish film. I think this is the first movie directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is now super famous, but he wasn't back then. Every director has to kind of earn their stars and whatever. I've had this in my collection for probably almost a decade, and I don't know why. I guess it just got lost in the shuffle. Only had recently watched it, and I can see why people talk about this. It's really good. It's a vampire movie, and it is one of the few vampire movies that I've seen that is actually unique. I mean, the story here is totally original. I don't think there's another vampire story or movie that is at all even like this. Yeah, check it out, Simon. Really good. It's basically about this old man. He's a shop owner. He just sells obscurities. He sells old trinkets and stuff like that. He ends up coming across this scarab, which you see on the cover there. So basically what the scarab does is and it's kind of mysterious. It doesn't really, it's not one of those movies that gives everything away, where it tells you, it doesn't, it leaves stuff to the imagination, which is, I think, what a good movie does. But anyway, the scarab basically attaches itself to your skin. It takes some of your blood and it turns you into a vampire. And so you got the old man, the shopkeeper, who gets turned, and it's just unlike any vampire movie I've ever seen, or even any vampire story. It's just completely unique. It's completely original. Acting is great. You got Ron Perlman in this, by the way, which I thought was strange, because who was Ron Perlman in 1993? I think by 93, I think he had done the Beauty and the Beast, right? If you guys remember the Beauty and the Beast show, I think that was probably before this, but I can't remember. I know I watched that a lot when I was a little kid, and I've actually really wanted to rewatch that. But anyways, all the actors in here, from what I can tell, I think they're all Spanish people. I think Ron Perlman might be the only American in the movie, and he goes back and forth. He speaks some Spanish and he speaks some English, so it's pretty cool. He plays a total asshole, total asshole. He's one of the antagonists of the movie, but it's Ron Perlman. When has he not been great? He's great here in 1993. He's just always been great. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, Ron Perlman was. Wait, was Perlman in Blade 2? I don't think so. Guillermo del Toro directed Blade 2. That might be what you're thinking of. Simon likes Ron Perlman. Yeah, he's just great, man. To this day, he's just one of those dudes. He's awesome. Ron Perlman was in Cobra. What was he? I watched Cobra recently. If he was in Cobra, yeah, I don't think he didn't have a big role at all. Fuck, dude, I'm gonna have to rewatch that now. Maybe I remembered it, and it's just my memory has been really bad lately. I'm not really sure what's going on. Interfacer, what's up, Mike? Glad you made it. About halfway through here, but there's still a lot of stuff to talk about. All right, so got one more. But yeah, definitely check out Kronos. Very cool, atmospheric, completely original vampire movie. So I have this Carrie set here. I already had the original Carrie, but I bought this just because it had the two other Carrie movies that I'd never seen. So starting with The Rage, Carrie 2 from 1999. Oh my God. Talk about a movie that doesn't age very well. It is very of its time, but I will also say I enjoyed it. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up in the 90s. I was in 1999, I was 17. I was like the basically the age of the kids that are in this movie. So I guess I could relate to it. I don't know. It was a decent movie. I kind of like the girl who plays Rachel. Basically what it's about is, I thought it was going to be a Carrie sequel, but it is, but Carrie's not in it. So you have the incident at the high school. You know what I mean? You've seen Carrie. This is like 20 years later or something. This girl, Rachel, is like Carrie's half sister, which is dumb. So she has the same like telekinetic abilities that Carrie had. And from there, it is kind of pretty similar to Carrie, just done differently. I would say I would recommend watching it just for like the third act. The third act is actually surprisingly gory, which is funny because the rest of it isn't. But obviously, the original Carrie is all about the third act, and this is no different. It's just funny because it goes through like this pretty tame movie, and in the third act, it unfolds pretty quickly, but it's pretty gory and bloody, and it's pretty satisfying. I also watched the 2002 Carrie made-for-TV movie. I watched it because Angela Bettis plays Carrie, and I love Angela Bettis. She is the only good thing about the movie. The rest of it is pretty forgettable. I can't really recommend it at all. Unless you're an Angela Bettis mega fan, I'd say watch it for her, but it's not a very good movie other than that. So we're moving on to the 2000s. Whoa, shit. We got a pretty good stack of 2000s movies, to be honest. I won't take forever on these. 2001, we've got John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars. I'd been wanting to see this for a long time. I just have avoided it since 2001. So now I've finally seen it, and now I can see why people talk about how bad it is. It is pretty bad, but I did find it entertaining. It's a pretty good action movie, I guess. I mean, you got like Jason Statham with hair, barely. In 2001, he had hair he probably shouldn't have. We all do that. I've lost my hair too, but at one point, you gotta make the decision to let it go, and you're gonna want to let it go before it gets to that point. But you still got Jason Statham. He's cool. He's a cool dude. He's a total dickhead in this movie, which is funny because we all know Jason Statham as being like this smooth good guy, or kind of anti-hero type guy, and he is kind of that here too, but he's also an asshole. You got Ice Cube. Why I can't get this steady for some reason. You got Ice Cube, who's pretty good, and then you got Natasha Henstridge, who there she is. I always loved her. This is probably the worst John Carpenter movie. Yeah, it's probably the worst, but it's a decent action movie. I don't know. It's got tons of John Carpenter trademarks, but it's you can tell he wasn't probably very inspired here, which is fine. It's fucking John Carpenter. He can he can make a movie and not be inspired. But yeah, not very good. Not very good. It's bad in a good way, but I like. Yeah, Ice Cube is good in it. He's like he's the cool guy, you know. It's almost like Ice Cube playing himself, which is I think Ice Cube plays himself in every movie that he's in, which is fine. I guess you can say he's not an actor; he just plays himself. I think that's why Ice Cube is in movies. I think basically they just want that persona. You know, I'm pretty sure directors are just like, dude, just be yourself. That's what we want you to do. John Carpenter movie with that cast shouldn't be that terrible. Yeah, you're right. That's what's funny about it. From 2004, we've got the sci-fi original Mosquito Man. I've done a review of this, haven't uploaded it yet. I bought this probably for $1, just going off that cover. It's a cool cover. It's way cooler than the actual movie. Sci-fi channel movies, I think you know what you're getting into, you know, when you see one. You're never going to expect it to be amazing. And this certainly isn't amazing. It's got some decent gooey practical effects and stuff. It's another one of those movies that's got a great third act. The third act is pretty gory, pretty violent. Hard pass on that cover. You'd pay $1 for that. It's pretty cool looking. But yeah, good gory third act, but yeah, it's not very good. I do appreciate though when a horrible movie at least has like a chunk that's really good. It at least makes you not feel like you wasted your time completely. And let's see, still sticking in 2005, we've got this. This is a cult classic at this point. We got Pulse, otherwise known as Cairo in Japan. Great Japanese movie. I had been wanting to see this for so long, and I just didn't. I don't know. I think I was just waiting until I stumbled upon it, and then I would just buy it. I'm sure I've seen it streaming and stuff like that. This is kind of one of those cult classics, you know, like Ringu and Ju-on and stuff like that, because it came out around the time of those, and it is kind of bundled in with those movies. Directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who did some other good stuff. I can't remember. He might have done the Ju-on movies. I should probably not just throw out random guesses, but so this is like one of those kind of its time 2000s movies where technology is you know, kind of where, you know, where you'd combine like technology and the supernatural, but it's really good. It kind of becomes a post-apocalyptic movie by the end, but the first 2 acts are like very creepy. Very, very, very creepy. I definitely highly recommend this one. Yeah, Simon, check this one out. One of the better Japanese movies. You know, it's a cult classic for a reason. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't know anything about it going into it, and yeah, it's creepy, and it's really well acted, and it's just really well made. It's just a good movie in general. 2006, we've got this was a sleeper of a movie right here, because I expected this to be garbage. And I mean, that's not why I bought it. I remember it coming out and I expected it to be garbage. And then I heard it was actually pretty decent, and I bought it for a couple bucks, and it is decent. It got altered. So as you can see on the top here, from the director of the Blair Witch Project, the Blair Witch Project had multiple directors, but this is directed by one of them. He's Eduardo Sanchez. This is really good. Really good. I mean, come on. It doesn't get more mid 2000s than the cover of this, which I think did this movie no favors, really. But I guess in 2005, you know, we were all used to seeing dumb shit like that. But I don't know. I avoided this movie, like I said. and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought this movie was really, really enjoyable. Had great characters, had a pretty good monster design. It's basically about these rednecks. Peter Edelson. You never seen the Blair Witch? Oh man! So the Blair Witch Project is a very polarizing movie. You got people who either think it's the greatest thing or it's the worst thing ever. I think it's pretty goddamn good. In fact, I love it and I defend it. I get really irritated when people criticize it because a lot of the time it's like people that are criticizing it are the type of people that have no attention span, and you need it. Blair Witch is a completely atmospheric horror movie. You could say, oh, well, not a lot happens in it, and that's true. But it's one of those movies where it's you just have to shut your mind off, not don't pay attention to your phone and stuff like that. Just turn the lights out, watch it at night, and just let the movie play for what it is. Um, and it's great. I don't think any argument against it being a great movie is invalid. You could say you don't like it, but saying that it's a bad movie, you're just wrong. Scott, I actually like Blair Witch 2 also, but I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm going to rewatch it. Obviously, it's a completely different movie, but very entertaining. Mike saw Blair Witch in the theater with your ex-wife when it came out. I saw it in the theater too, which was funny because it was my first horror movie that I saw in the theater. I didn't really get into horror movies until like late teen years. I had just started to become interested in horror, so I saw that when I was either 16 or 17. I was 16, yeah, when Blair Witch came out, and it scared me for sure. I mean, I was still a kid. I remember driving home, and I lived with my parents still. I was 16. We lived kind of out in the woods, and like I was driving home in the woods after seeing that, and it was a tough drive, no doubt. Andre loves both parts. My Simon can't believe it was so long ago. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was. So Altered, getting back to Altered. So you have these. How many are there? Three. Three redneck buddies. There's these redneck good old boys, but they're good dudes. Years ago, they had been abducted by aliens and experimented on and stuff. There was actually 4. One of them didn't make it. The other 3 ended up getting returned to Earth. And this is basically about them wanting revenge on the aliens that abducted them, especially because they killed one of them. And so they had spent like 10 years or something, like scouring the woods, trying to either find a way to get back in contact with the aliens, or maybe just finding something. They just want to understand better, and they're also pissed off, and they want the aliens to come back so they can fight them. And that ends up happening. The aliens do end up coming back. And yeah, it's basically about these dudes fighting back against the aliens that originally abducted them, and it's just really good. I like how the alien. There's only one. No, there's a few. The alien designs are, I guess you could say, dated looking, but they're also fully practical. So they kind of reminded me of like an alien design from like the 50s or the 60s. Yeah, Scott, that cover's terrible. Like, it's very of its time, but it's not a good cover. I'd say check it out. It's a good action sci-fi horror movie. I liked it. Yeah, it's it's so much better than it deserves. Better than what it deserves. Better than what it got. And I did some research on it. This movie lost so much money. It didn't even make back its budget. Like, not even close. It didn't even make back like a third of its budget. So poor Eduardo Sanchez, probably why we don't hear about him anymore, because he poor guy. Seen that, but only remember very little. It's good, Simon. Yeah, rewatch it. Andre is watching Hellraiser 2, one of my favorites. All right, next we are in 2005. Yeah, 2005. I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I hadn't really known about it until the last year or so. We got Edmund. Look at that cast: William H. Macy, Mina Suvari, Denise Richards, Julia Stiles. So this is a Stuart Gordon movie. If you don't know Stuart Gordon, he's directed all those cool like Lovecraft adaptations, and one of my favorite directors ever. Um, so I bought this strictly on Stuart Gordon's name. Um, I like William H. Macy. Scott, have you seen this? Are you talking about this one? I thought you must have watched it recently, because I think when I bought this, you hadn't heard of it, because I hadn't heard of it either. This movie's insane. This is not a horror movie, really. It's kind of like American Psycho, I guess, if I would compare it to something. And I had another comparison in my head, but I can't remember now. But it's kind of like American Psycho. You got William H. It's kind of like Falling Down meets American Psycho. Okay, Scott. Okay. You must have watched it recently, huh? Like I did. Yeah, that's right. It's like American Psycho crossed with Falling Down, maybe with a little bit of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And this is like Stuart Gordon's like art film, basically. If I remember correctly, I think it was based off of a play. It's William H. Macy just kind of snapping one day, and he's sick and tired of his wife, and he leaves his wife, and he ends up just I think it takes place in New York, if I remember correctly, a big city, anyways. He's going through the big city, just trying to experience new things, and he ends up killing people. Like he kills this one pimp. There's this he he meets this pimp, and he wants to get a prostitute from the guy, but the pimp ends up just mugging him, and he ends up killing the pimp. And then he ends up meeting Julia Stiles, who's a waitress at a restaurant. He ends up meeting her, and he kills her, and kind of by accident, but kind of on purpose. Like he didn't plan on it, but he killed her. It was just out of a snap decision. This is a really funny scene where like he's in prison, and his wife goes to talk to him, and she's like, "Did you really kill that girl?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did, but honestly, I think it was just because I had too much coffee." I don't know. It's a weird fucking movie, but it was good for what it is. Check it out if you just like weird ass movies. It doesn't feel like a Stuart Gordon movie at all, but and I gotta say, Jeffrey Combs makes a guest appearance in this, and the Jeffrey Combs scene is the best part of the movie. It just reminds you how good of an actor Jeffrey Combs actually is. And it's almost, I guess, us horror fans, we like having Jeffrey as like this cult kind of Bruce Campbell type actor, but it also makes you realize that he probably deserved better. Like you probably should see Jeffrey Combs in more and bigger movies. I think it's just because, well, I don't know why. Maybe he wanted to stay obscure. Most actors don't. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure he's carved out a pretty good name for himself for what it is, and I'm sure he's not hurting financially. But he's just a really good actor that, I don't know, I think deserved a little better. Same with Bruce Campbell. Let's see, where are we at? 2006. I should have probably not included this one because I actually fell asleep during this, but I watched most of it. Got The Maid. It's a movie from Singapore. It's basically just about this girl who she's from China, and she emigrates over to Singapore so she can have a little bit better of a life. She's a maid, and she ends up living with this family. She's like a live-in maid, and she ends up I don't know if Singapore really does this, but like the neighborhood that this is in, 1 month out of the year, everyone performs like these rituals every night to keep spirits away. So the girl ends up interrupting or disturbing a ritual one day, and she ends up like unlocking the spirits. Basically, if you interrupt one of the rituals, you will actually see the spirits for the rest of those 30 days. So some pretty creepy jump scenes and stuff, but I fell asleep during the third act. Not that it was bad or anything. I just was tired. So I will be finishing that one, The Maid. I'd say check it out if you like, Asian horror, which you should. Peter, you never seen Reanimator? Yeah, dude. It's never too late, man. I mean, I just saw Psycho. Yeah, don't skip Reanimator. don't skip Reanimator. Don't skip From Beyond. Those are, for me and for a lot of people, those are like, those go hand in hand. Don't skip those for sure. Reanimator is just so good. You'll love it, dude. Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton. Yeah, you'll love it. There's no way that you won't. Okay, let's see. Where are we at? 2007. Here's a movie that I passed on since 2007, but some horror channels that I follow on YouTube were like, it's actually really good. It's not. It's not really good. And, obviously I only paid a couple bucks for it. We're talking about Dead Silence, directed by James Wan, who's gone on to be a big name. But back then he was still kind of a, new director. This movie's terrible. I didn't like this at all. I think the first, I'm not a fan of the Saw franchise, but I do like some of what James Wan has done. But, obviously it's a haunted puppet movie. I don't know. Maybe I bought it because I like Puppet Master series, but not very good. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it at all. I should have known Donnie Wahlberg being the lead actor. I mean, come on. But yeah, skip Dead Silence. Pass on that. Pass on this next one too. Sadly, because 2009, The Hole, directed by Joe Dante of Gremlins and Small Soldiers and fucking The Howling. Love Joe Dante, but I think he's just burnt out. Maybe I feel like this is probably one of those movies where they asked him to direct. Joe Dante was basically burned out after the first Gremlins movie, so he doesn't need money, I'm sure, to this day. So this has some Joe Dante trademarks. It's I don't know. It's about this family that moves into this new house, and they have this in their garage. There's like a trap door that's got this like endless hole that spirits come out of, and I don't know. Not very good. Skip that. Certainly don't buy it like I did. But most of the movies, if I'm going to take a risk on a movie, I usually only do it when it's like $3-4. And yeah. Peter, you saw From Beyond on VHS at the time. Yeah, cool. At least you've seen From Beyond, but definitely go check out Reanimator because you have to. 2010, we got this. I think this was given to me. I don't remember buying this ever. Creature. This is another of its time. This is a very 2010 movie. Pretty terrible, pretty gory, but still terrible. I have this rule that any movie that has the monster right on the front and right on the back usually sucks. So terrible. Don't watch Creature. It's got what's his name? It's got God, my memory lately has just sucked. Sid Haig. Sid Haig is in it, and he's got a good amount of scenes too, but I don't know, man. I felt like Sid Haig would pretty much R.A.P. Sid Haig, but I feel like those in the late 2000s, I feel like he would pretty much do any movie for money, which I don't blame him. I probably would too. Then I rewatched. I've seen this movie actually quite a few times. Saw it in the theater when it came out. Watched it a handful of times since then. Insidious from 2010. I really like this movie. I think it holds up. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. So, there's 5 Insidious movies now. I think it's one of those franchises that's got a little bit out of control. Didn't really warrant 5 movies, but I've heard the recent one's not very good. I've only ever seen the first 2. I couldn't get into the second one. Couldn't really get into it. I don't know. It just didn't have the same feel to me. But I've heard a lot of people like the second. A lot of people like the third. I don't know. I might reinvestigate the sequels, but I'm kind of hesitant to. But I don't know. I still think this is good. James Wan, another James Wan movie, one of his early ones. It's good. I like it. And we got this one was sent to me by Scott. So he didn't like it. He wanted to see if I liked it. We both like Wes Craven, even though we both also agree that Wes Craven isn't a perfect director. This is from 2010. Got My Soul to Take. One of the last Wes Craven movies. I don't remember if it's what his last one was, the last movie he ever did, but one of the last Craven movies. Um, yeah, this is pretty terrible. It's got a, it had me going in the first 5 or 10 minutes. It was pretty fast paced and I don't know. It just seemed like a cool movie the first 10 minutes, and then after that, it just goes completely down. So much that I don't even really want to talk about it. It's it's about this killer who, when he died, basically his spirit still haunts stuff, and you got these high school kids who perform this ritual every year that if they perform the ritual, it'll keep the guy's spirit away. And that's all I can muster, really. It's not very good. It's terrible, actually. Saying it's not really good is an understatement. R.I.P. Wes Craven. I love the guy, but yeah, he did some bad movies. From 2013, I've already uploaded a review of this. I just felt, I don't know, I felt inspired to review it for, I'm not really sure what reason, but we got Julia. If Scott doesn't like it, not many will. Yeah, Scott's got good taste. What can I say? Julia from 2013. This is a rape revenge movie. It's got some good ideas, but it ultimately doesn't work well. Thought the cover was pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really recommend this one. It's a semi-typical rape revenge movie. It's about this girl goes on a date with this guy who drugs her, and him and his two buddies, they sexually assault her. And she ends up getting her revenge. What makes this kind of unique is that she finds this, like, it's almost like a support group of people who have been sexually assaulted, who, like, it's almost like a cult. They like go out and like kill people just to get their revenge. I don't know. It doesn't make sense because they're like killing innocent people. And so when I saw this, I was like, I don't want to sound insensitive or anything, but I thought this movie is directed by a woman, but it's totally directed by a dude. So I don't know. No, it's decent, but not real good. And I don't remember when this was. Maybe 2014 or 2015, 2016. I think 2014 or 15. This was a gift. Hobbit: The Battle of the Five Armies. I hate the Hobbit movies. I watched this recently, and I've had this for like 5 years, and I only finally watched it. Yeah, these Hobbit movies. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. Love them. I think they're drop dead absolute classics. But so I saw the first Hobbit movie when it came out, and I was like, wow, this is really boring. So for the longest time, I didn't want to give a shot to the other Hobbit movies, but I've, 10 years passed, and I was like, maybe I'll check him out. So I still haven't seen the Desolation of Smaug. Haven't seen that, but this was maybe better than the first one. But it just, when you compare these to the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, they just seem just like a shell of the greatness of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's sad, and it doesn't work. Which is weird because The Hobbit as a book, it's a great book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. So it's not like the source material is not there. The source material is totally there. It's just, they just couldn't pull it off for whatever reason. But that's fine. We got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that's all we need. Oh, all right. Got about 10 or so left. All right, this next one, 2015. This is one of my favorite movies of recent years, or at least one of my favorite watches, I should say. It's almost 10 years old at this point, but The Mind's Eye. Awesome movie. So this is directed by Joe Begos, who is a director that has kind of recently gotten my attention. My phone's ringing. Not going to answer it. Sorry. So anyways, Joe Begos is this director. This is his second movie. He's kind of made waves, kind of made a name for himself with his last two films, which I'll be getting to in a little bit. This is film number 2 for him. This was just so much fun. This is like This is clearly inspired by Scanners from David Cronenberg. It's basically about these people who have telekinetic powers, and there's like this agency trying to hunt down all these telekinetic people so they can study them and ultimately weaponize them. It's very schlocky. This takes place in the 1990s, which I thought was cool because you got all these movies doing this retro stuff. It's all about the 80s, and that's kind of what do you call it? Overdone. So this takes place in the 90s, which I thought was cool. Mike, my dog, rolls. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's right here. There's Louis. So yeah, basically about the telekinetic people trying to fight back to this agency that is just trying to weaponize them. Again, it's really schlocky, but it's it's intentionally schlocky, and it's very gory and violent, and it's very fun. This is probably one of the most fun movies I've seen in a long time. Check out the work of Joe Bagos. You won't be disappointed, I don't think, because I have two more movies of his to talk about. 2015, we got Cub. This was a Belgian movie, really good. This is basically about this. I did a review of it. It's this local legend or whatever of like this werewolf kid that lives in the woods, and this like a Boy Scout troop or whatever camping in the woods nearby where the local legend is. And I think I'll just leave it at that because there's a bunch of twists and stuff that I don't want to spoil. But so it's basically it's a pretty violent movie. It's really good actors, really good. I think this is the directorial debut from Jonas Govaerts, if I remember correctly. He might have done some music videos, but I think this is his first feature-length debut, if I remember correctly, which is always cool to see someone knock it out of the park with their first movie. And it's good. I'd say check it out. It's production value and everything it's really good. It's just somebody already knowing what they want with their first movie, which is, I think, impressive. This next one, I know Scott hates it, and I can see why. We got A Girl Walks Home at Night from 2014. This is it's a vampire movie. I did a review of it, so I won't talk too much about it. It's unique for a vampire movie. It's very artsy. It's very much an art house film. I don't know. It's not going to be for everybody. In fact, I kind of walked into it thinking I wouldn't like it. I don't think that it's particularly amazing, but I liked it for what it was. I'll just kind of leave it at that. It's directed by an Iranian woman. This was her feature-length debut, which again, it's impressive. She hasn't really gone on to do too much she got a lot of attention with this and hasn't really, like, you'd think a director like that would go on to do more, more cult stuff, but she hasn't really done too much. She's mostly done like TV. I think she's done some anthology segments and stuff like that. But then we got from 2016. Oh my gosh, this one took me by surprise. We got The Eyes of My Mother. This is a very cerebral, fucked up movie. I've done a review of this also, haven't uploaded it yet. Yeah, so Simon, you never know how many vampires are beneath those burkas. Anyways, so this is about a girl lives with her parents. I won't, this is going to be a spoiler free thing, but so her mom dies. They live kind of in a really rural area. So she lives with her father, who eventually dies as well. By this point, she's like in her early 20s or something like that. So she's had like very little contact with people that weren't her parents. So she's severely traumatized. I'll spoil a little bit of it. So basically, this dude walks by when she was a little girl. She was probably 7 or 8 years old, maybe 6. So this dude just randomly walks by, starts talking to her, making small talk, nothing weird or anything. Mom comes out and she's like, "Can I help you?" And he's like, "Hey, he's a clean cut, well kept looking dude. I thought he was a what do you call it, like a Mormon or something. And he's like, can I use your restroom? I've been traveling for a while. Maybe he said his car broke down. I can't remember what. So she brings him in the house. He ends up getting weird, and he murders her. So that's part of what traumatizes the girl so much. She witnesses the murder of her mom, and so it's basically very inspired by like the story of Ed Gein. We'll just leave it at that. She's super traumatized, and this is basically about her just kind of trying to live a normal life, but she's severely fucked up. And this is one of those movies that you kind of feel like you need a shower by the time you're done watching, because it's there's like not a hint of positivity in this movie. There's no, it's just all super depressing, and it's shot in black and white too, which is kind of cool because it adds to, like, not only is there no emotion in this movie, there's no color. So kind of like Eraserhead. Like this is like Eraserhead meets Ed Gein, like, but more grounded in reality than Eraserhead, obviously. But really good, really fucked. All right, where are we at now? 2017. Then we got the Cult of Chucky. Not too bad. I love the Chucky movies, but I've ignored the modern ones. Yeah, not I don't know. It's got some good gore and stuff like that. You got Jennifer Tilly, of course. You got Fiona Dourif, who's Brad Dourif's daughter, which is cool. She almost just is like she's playing her dad, basically. Decent movie with some decent gore. Not great though. I can't really recommend it unless you're a Chucky diehard. Then maybe check it out, but it's not very good. Here's where are we at? 2017 still. Got A24 film. It Comes at Night. Another really disturbing. This is like a post-apocalyptic movie. There's basically like this virus ravaging through the world. You got this family living on on a homestead, basically just trying to survive. All communication has been, long gone. So they have, you got no radio, you got no TV. So most people just don't know what the fuck's going on. They just know that it's bad. And it's just basically about them trying to survive. The virus is deadly as fuck. Basically, once you get it, you're gone. I don't want to spoil it because there are some definite twists in this movie, but it's another kind of like the Eyes of My Mother, where it's very visceral and very very fucked up. Like there are some twists here, the like stomach churning type stuff. This is bleak as it gets. We'll just leave it at that. If you like cerebral, visceral, super bleak movies, definitely check it out because it's a damn good movie. But it's by the time it's done, you're just depressed and like if you get let that movie work its magic and kind of envelop you, it's by the time it's over, you're just like you need a nap or something. But it's very good. That's the signs of a good movie, right? 2018. I just had to rewatch this yesterday because I really liked it when it came out. We got Annihilation by Alex Garland, Natalie Portman. Who else is in this? Jennifer Jason Leigh. Really fucking good. This is like Aliens meets what was the other comparison that I had? Aliens crossed with The Thing, crossed with H.P. Lovecraft's Color Out of Space short story. Really fucking good. Simon says, I've seen that. Is there a girl they tie to a bed in It Comes at Night? Is that what you're talking about? Is there a girl tied to a bed? I don't think so. I think that's a different movie. I don't think so. But yeah, Annihilation. If you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft or anything that I just named, this is fucking really good. It's basically about this. I think it was a comet, if if I remember the beginning, well, I just watched it fucking yesterday. It doesn't. There's a lot of questions. Obviously, this is not another movie where, they have to paint a perfect picture for you for us dum-dums. This is another one of those movies where it's like not everything has to be explained and not everything has to be answered, but it looks like a comic a comet lands down near this, like, kind of out in the middle of the forest, and near a lighthouse, by the way, so I guess by the water too, and basically turns into it becomes infested by like alien life forms, like bacteria, I'm sure. So it changes, probably like a 1 mile radius or something like that. It changes everything. Like the trees, the animals that live in that area, changes everything. And so there's like a military unit that goes to investigate it, and they don't come back. So obviously not a good sign. So they end up sending, a year later, they send a bunch of like biologists and scientists, all women, which I actually thought was cool. So they send this research crew in to I'll admit that part doesn't really make sense. Why not send a research crew and more military or something like that? But I guess, to be fair, some of these women were like ex-military and stuff, so they know how to handle themselves. So anyways, they're going into research and maybe find out what happened, and it just takes off from there. It's there's some really good, pretty decent. I mean, there's a lot of CGI, but it's pretty decent. There's some really creepy fucking monsters and stuff like that. There's like an alligator with shark teeth, because everything is mutated. There's like this creepy bear. I don't want to spoil much for you if you haven't seen it. Just really good soundtrack, good acting, I would say, and great visuals. Awesome movie. Simon Hot Women, I hope. Well, if you like Natalie Portman, I think she's pretty easy on the eyes. Yeah. It's not. They're not supposed to be supermodels or anything. The book series Annihilation's based on His Amazing, Scott says. Oh shit, I'm getting on that. Hell yeah. And Andre says Jeff Vandermeer. Andre, my T-shirt. This is a guy named Rich Evans. Scott knows, obviously. If the rest of you don't, there's a YouTube channel called Red Letter Media. It's probably one of the best YouTube channels ever. It's strictly a film review YouTube channel, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a gold standard. I do film reviews myself, and just knowing that Red Letter Media exists, it's one of those things where it's like I'll never do anything nearly as good as this. Not that my reviews are very good, but I enjoy them anyways. But yeah, gold standard for film review. It's basically three guys. Started out as two guys, but I would say three guys with like a cast of rotating buddies that come in and stuff too. But it's just phenomenal. Check it out if you guys like. Obviously, you like movies, so if you haven't seen Red Letter Media, it's awesome. I can't guarantee you'll like it, but I'd be surprised if you didn't. Moving on to we're still in 2018. This might be 2019 though. I can't remember for sure. 18 or 19. We've got Trapped by the Devil. I recently reviewed this. Scott's seen it. I know that. Decent movie. I'd say it's worth a watch. Right, Scott? I'd say it's worth a watch. It's got a decent first act. It's got a pretty good third act, but the middle kind of sags. It's basically about, if you haven't watched my review, which, I don't blame you. It's about this dude who claims that he has found like the devil incarnate, basically, in a human form. So he locks him in his basement, and his brother and his wife come stopping by one day randomly, and he tells them about what's going on. They don't believe him at first, and just kind of goes from there. So basically, throughout most of the movie, you're like, you go back and forth thinking like, this dude, maybe he is onto something. Oh no, he's probably crazy. But maybe he knows something. Oh, he's obviously crazy. And it kind of, yeah, I won't spoil the end for you. Pretty good ending, actually. It's got a good third act. It's a movie that very much going for atmosphere, and it achieves it most of the time. Like I said, the second act, almost the entire middle, kind of, it's never unwatchable, but kind of sags a little bit. if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it's a first-time director as well. So you got to give him a little bit of a break, for that reason. All right, where are we at? 2019. We've got the remake of David Cronenberg's Rabid. Like I said before, I kind of like some remakes, but I bought this because I kind of have a soft spot for the directors. The directors of this movie, they're the Soska sisters. So they're like my age. They're two twin sisters. And I just like following them on Instagram and stuff. They're really cool. They're just really cool people. I try to pick up their movies. They're working on one right now. So it's not as good, obviously, as Cronenberg's Rabid. It's nowhere near as good, but they did put their own spin on it. It's not a, like a shot for shot remake or anything, which was cool. Pretty gory. It's worth watching, I guess. Not a high recommendation though, but if you're someone who's okay with remakes, I'd say sure. If you're anti-remake, it's not going to do anything for you. 2019, right, on this one, I had to rewatch Joker because I wanted to do a review. So I wrote up a review. I haven't recorded it yet. I guess somewhat of a polarizing movie for people. You had people saying this was either the best movie ever or not very good. I think this movie is actually incredible. It's not perfect though. There's some definite flaws. I think Joaquin Phoenix played an amazing Joker with some flaws, not his fault. I would say his performance was a 10 out of 10 performance. The writing was good, but there's some flaws in the writing. There's some flaws in the story. But it's a very, this movie is basically kind of like a social commentary on mental illness and also classism. And for that reason, it kind of resonated with me. So I thought this was really good. I had no faith in it originally. I was like, I like Joaquin Phoenix. He's an amazing actor. I thought, so it's directed by a guy named Todd Phillips, who he did the Hangover movies. So I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to pull this off. But he actually does. You can tell he had a vision for this. And though there are some flaws, this is a really good movie. Obviously, it's based off of a DC Comics character, but this is the most violent and the most cerebral comic book related movie ever. It's very dark. It's sad and disturbing, and I don't know. I think it's pretty great. Mike, you liked it, and Simon, yeah, Simon, check it out. I could recommend that movie to about anyone. It's worth your time for sure. Maybe you'll love it, maybe you won't, but I think you'll at least get something out of it. I think we're still in 2019. We've got Critters Attack. I did a review of this, and I think I've said it all already. It's terrible. I don't know if I love it. I like the first Critters a lot. And this is the most recent Critters movie. And if these people are going to still work on, more Critters sequels, I'd say just I'm tapping out because this is terrible. Not much to say about that. Just watch my review if you want, because I don't want to talk about it again. Peter, yes, I have seen The Batman with Robert Pattinson. I thought it was pretty good. It's not perfect. It's not great. I thought Robert Pattinson was a great Batman, not a very good Bruce Wayne. Colin Farrell was a great Penguin. What's his name? The guy that plays Falcone, John Turturro, was a great crime boss. There's a lot to like. Lenny Kravitz's daughter played a great Catwoman. So they got the right actors. But I think, and I wasn't that big of a fan of the Riddler in that. Twilight actor puts me off. Peter, yeah, I thought he was a good Batman. That's the thing. Robert Pattinson's actually a really good actor. We all need to get over the fact that he was in Twilight, because even he himself doesn't like those movies. He was a young dude, and he basically did those for the paycheck. Can you blame him there? No, yeah, I thought Robert Pattinson was actually. I went in not really thinking he was going to be the right guy, but I thought he was a good Batman, not a good Bruce Wayne though. All right, we're up to 2019. We're still in 2019. Here's another Joe Begos film. He directed that Mind's Eye that I talked about a minute ago, VFW. This is already slated to be a cult classic. That's what a lot of people say, and I agree. This is a good time. This is almost like a remake of like what's it, that John Carpenter movie, Assault on Precinct 13. This is a lot like that. This is basically, you have this group of old dudes. They're all retired military. VFW stands for Veteran of Foreign Wars. So I think they were all in Vietnam, if I remember correctly. So I think they were all friends from the war. But anyways, so this guy here, you got Stephen, what's his name? He's Stephen Lang, who's fucking great, by the way. He owns a bar. It's a VFW bar. So if you're ex-military, you can come drink at this bar. They have these bars all over the country. Basically, almost every town has one. But anyways, so Stephen Lang owns it. So one day they're hanging out. They basically hang out with each other all day, drink and smoke cigarettes and stuff. And they also live in this city that is just ravaged by drugs. And it's not a real drug. It's a drug they made up for the movie, but it's basically it's like the worst drug pandemic or epidemic that's ever happened. And basically the world sucks because half the world is now junkies and stuff. And so some teenage girl stumbles in there one day, and she's got like this gang after her. All these dudes, they're pissed off that she brought this negative attention to their lives and their bar and stuff. They basically help her. It's almost like a zombie movie, but it's very violent. But they're not zombies, but they're like drugged out people. Very, 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 very violent. But it's so much fun. In addition to Stephen Lang, you got Fred, the mighty Fred Williamson right here. You got a bunch of cult people. You got this guy right here. I forgot his name, but he's from the Karate Kid. Martin Kove, I think is his name. I think this is William Sadler. He's from a bunch of shit too. They're all like cult actors, except for Stephen Lang. He's more of a recent guy. But yeah, it has George Wendt also from Cheers. Got such a top-notch cast. This is like the what's that Stallone movie? This is like this is like what the Expendables should have been. These old dudes. It's great. It's awesome. Definitely check this out if you like horror movie, or not horror. If you like zombie movies, if you like Assault on Precinct 13, it's not a horror movie. It's just a very violent action movie, and it's fantastic. Yeah, Martin Kove and Fred Williamson. Yeah, it's very decent. Yeah, and Stephen Lang is great. Everyone is great in this. They're great characters. So I got two more. What are we? 2021. We're getting to current times, huh? The wonderful year that 2021 was. Got Black Friday. I picked this up cheap. I had already heard that it wasn't great. Obviously, I'm such a Bruce Campbell fan, who you see right there on the cover. You got Bruce Campbell, you got Michael Jai White, you got Devon Sawa. So pretty decent cast. Bruce Campbell's great in it as always. I'd say it's worth watching for Bruce Campbell. It's basically a zombie movie. It's about this crew of people all work in a toy store. They're getting ready, amping up for Black Friday, which is obviously a retail nightmare. And there's a zombie outbreak that I think it happens right in their store, something like that. So it's a zombie movie, but it's not a typical zombie movie. It's kind of like I think they're actually aliens, if I remember correctly. They look like zombies, but I think they're aliens, because the end has this giant alien monster that doesn't look very good. I watched for Bruce Campbell, but it's not a great movie. Worth a watch. And last but not least, actually one of the best of the stack, the most recent from Joe Begos, Christmas Bloody Christmas. This is almost like a soft reboot of the Terminator, like the first Terminator movie. It's about this girl that owns a record store. She likes metal. She's wearing a Death shirt through the whole movie, so I think we can appreciate that. So she owns a record store, and she has friends that own a toy store who have this, like, they get this Santa, animatronic Santa, who who actually turns out to be I think like his programming is wrong, and he turns into basically the Terminator from the first movie, and he just wants to kill everybody. So it's pretty gory, very violent. As you can see, he's got a bloody axe on the front. Many people get that axe. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, it's about the record store girl fighting back against the Terminator Santa. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. I highly recommend this. You don't have to wait till Christmas to watch it. It's not really all that Christmassy, to be honest. If this weren't a Santa, if the robot wasn't wearing a Santa suit, it would just be a Terminator, inspired action movie. But it's not super Christmassy. It does take place around Christmas time, but whatever. There's not like Christmas music in it or anything. Not a lot of Christmas themed imagery, or just a good action movie. So that's all I got, guys. Scott couldn't. Yeah, I didn't really like the girl either, to be honest. I guess I didn't say that part. I thought the movie is awesome. Yeah, I wasn't real big on. I wasn't actually real big on any of the characters. I didn't think it had any good characters in it really at all. The dude in it that like is her employee, I thought he was dumb too. He dies though, so yeah, not good characters, but good fun violent movie. Anyways, guys, that's it. I'll probably do another one of these in a month or two. I appreciate you joining me here, Andre. If you're still awake, I'm sure it's bedtime for you. So cheers, guys. Take it easy.